Welcome to Caught Off Guard. I'm Jessie Zarelli, and this is a show about the moments that hit us out of nowhere and where that's usually where life gets a little interesting. Each episode, we dive into the gut decisions, chaos, intuition, and curveballs that end up rerouting us, often more authentically than any grand plan we had. You'll hear from a range of people who have all been caught off guard in their own way, and how those moments pushed them somewhere they didn't expect but ultimately needed to go. Okay, now let's get started. I'm in front of my backdrop because I just finished doing an audition. I know I look like a floating cloud with this sweatshirt on. It was a really nice audition, I have to say. I have been allowing myself or giving myself the gift of editing myself less and spending more time on the preparation. I think historically what's happened is I've had anxiety about these auditions. And when I say these auditions, I mean all the auditions. And so I'll spend a lot of time thinking instead of feeling into them. And then when I go to record, it doesn't feel aligned and it doesn't feel full of life. And I know things are missing. And my way of fixing that is just recording it over and over and over and over again. And that is the trap if you're not an actor and you don't know this language. Like self-taping is basically pre-recording an audition that you send to the casting directors, the casting office. And that is essentially your audition. Auditions, years and years ago used to be only in person, and now they are very frequently self-tapes. And the trap of that is you have an endless amount of time to keep editing and keep recording over and over and over again. But that is also a great way you drive yourself crazy. And I've been doing way less of that. And I just got to have the experience of having a really fun audition, doing my prep for it, feeling really good. And then I recorded maybe 4 or 5 times, and I was able to snatch 2 takes from that. They wanted 2 options, and I feel really good about it. And whether or not I book it, I just feel happy that I gave myself the opportunity to not overthink and to not spend so much time editing and recording. So I know that was a lesson for me. So part of the reason I do these intros is because I want to be able to share pieces of information that I don't think necessarily encapsulate a full episode. And I also want to give myself the opportunity to share different products and services and things that I'm doing that I think are helpful and are making my life better. And I want to be able to share that with you. So the first thing is skincare. If you walk into my bathroom, I have most things hidden away, but if you walk into my bathroom, it is like a drugstore that you could go shopping in. And honestly, if you want, you can go shopping. Everything costs $0. You can just take it. But I have spent, I don't even want to think about how much money on skincare, trying different regimens. And as someone with more sensitive skin and who now lives in a state where there are 4 pretty extreme seasons, and having previously lived in Los Angeles with a very different temperament, right? Dry, hot heat, which my skin was not happy about. As long as I lived there, all the times I went back and forth, whatever it was, my skin hated living in Southern California. And that was kind of like always something on my mind. Like, okay, my physical body hates living here, which was at some points very sad for me. But anyway, I've tried all different kinds of skincare, and maybe it fixes this issue, but it doesn't fix the others. And I have just found one that I really loved. I am a victim to social media advertising, and that's okay. Honestly surprised that I've been able to last this long without buying something on social media. Like, that seems bonkers. But anyway, an ad got the best of me. But I'm really happy I bought it. I decided to try one of the prepackaged little kits that they have of several different products. And it comes with an eye cream, a night cream, a day cream, and then a skin polisher. And then I bought an additional, they come in these little tiny glass pots. I bought an additional one that's for redness and acne. And it is delightful. It's very different than other products I've used. It is extremely natural, and they have every single ingredient listed, and there's no water in it. So it's a very thick, oily based skincare product. I would say the texture is like a smoother, more earthy shea butter. You know how if you've ever seen a block of shea butter, it's really, really thick, and all you really have to do is kind of glide your finger along it, and you're able to get a lot of product from it. That's the same as this. It's called Froya. It is wonderful. I don't think I have a discount code or anything, but I can at least just link the websites the website, and you can check it out yourself. But there were so many reviews, which is also something I loved, of all different types of skincare, skin types, different age groups, different problems they were addressing. And I've only been using it for not even 5 weeks, and I really feel like it's transforming my skin. One of my big goals for 2026 has been to use less makeup, particularly foundation, powder, and concealer. Very happy and content to be using eye makeup. That would be ideal for me. Mascara and eyeliner to kind of like highlight and help my pretty blue eyes pop. And then a lip color depending on, how tan I am, my hair color, what I'm wearing, and just kind of leave it at that. These products, though, they're making my face feel like dewy and beautiful, and I wake up feeling so like soft and refreshed after the night. It's really, really delightful. I have also gotten back into doing CrossFit pretty consistent. Did I say CrossFit? CrossFit pretty consistently 1 to 2 times a week. And that's been really nice for me. I am a recovering CrossFit addict, so I need to tread carefully. But doing it a couple of times a week is giving me the boost of, okay, I'm a strong badass, and this feels awesome lifting kettlebells above my head. Although I would choose Russian over American swings any day of the week. If you didn't get that reference, I'm not going to explain it. We're just going to skip over it. But only doing it 2 times a week is making me less attached to the time of like beating my reps and like going really fast. And instead, sometimes I allow myself to slow down in the cardio-based workouts and, push myself a little in terms of the actual form or using heavier weights, and it feels really good. And anyway, I leave feeling really strong and good, and I'm liking how it's changing my body a little bit, ever so slowly, because I'm only doing it two times a week, but it's been really nice. Another really nice thing that has been happening is I have been getting information outside of me that is mirroring back experiences that I'm going through. And what I mean by that is I have been feeling more into this whole idea, belief, concept of doing things imperfectly and just following your bliss and going in flow. And part of that has come from some of the meetup accountability groups that like the social groups that I'm a part of. And a big one of that has come from doing the artist way. And I think there actually is a quote in the book that says, follow your bliss. And so as I'm doing that and allowing things to be imperfect, I'm getting that mirrored back to me with other people who are talking about, oh, I started this and it was really messy at first, or I was actually really fucking bad at it and then I kept doing it. I was listening to a podcast before, someone who is a multi-hyphenate, who is extremely creative and just a wonderful, we can also look for that podcast as well so I can share it. And she was talking about just doing the thing and then kind of figuring it out as you go. And it's such a gift to yourself. And I feel that so much. I feel this freedom with just letting myself do it. I am also going to do another episode on the artist way and my takeaways from that, because we are wrapping up week 12 this week. I can't believe it. I can't believe that it's been 3 months of doing this book. Like, I just feel so grateful that I decided to start it. I sent the email. All of these people joined. I've made so many new connections from it as well, and that I've been able to consistently do it. And that is definitely a pro tip. If there's something you want to do, just start it and lead it, because you are definitely going to finish it when you are the one. Essentially, I wouldn't say I'm leading these groups, like everyone comes and I had to actually miss one, but everyone comes and contributes things and they're very prepared. But because I'm the one who started it, I've put like this added responsibility of myself of needing to be there and participate. And yeah, I mean, definitely like a life hack. If you want to get it done, then just start a group of people and lead it. And I guarantee you will get it done. Another really nice thing I wanted to share is I had a wonderful acting class yesterday. I mean, I could also talk about that ad nauseum because it's just so incredible. But whatever is going on in the energy in the universe, we were all so locked into each other and listening so sharply. It felt like the dial on listening was turned up as high as it could possibly go. And I felt like there was a through line and a thread of what we were hearing from each other and how we were listening and interpreting the scenes and what our takeaways were. And as everyone was, giving compliments and feedback and suggestions, what I was thinking was, this whole idea that you have to suffer or be abused or abuse yourself in order to learn and grow as an artist is fucking bullshit. It is bullshit. And I have believed it and identified with it for a very long time, and I'm not doing that anymore. And if you are someone who is also a believer of that, I am here to tell you it is not fucking true. And I'm living that right now as I'm doing things and being nice to myself and giving myself grace and finding compliments, sometimes forcing myself to look for compliments and look for some good of what I've done. I am still getting better. So experiencing kindness and joy and fun still allows you to grow. It is a thing. I mean, on a deeper level, though, anything is a thing if you believe it's a thing. And I know that was just one sentence, but that is a whole podcast episode in and of itself. If you believe it is a thing, it just is for you. You don't really have to give any more to it. Anyway, something else I discovered that is really wonderful is this metaphysical bookstore / place of different types of workshops and energy healing. It's called Sacred Mirrors. It's in Kingston. It is delightful. I did an energy clearing session last Friday with Dan, who co-owns it. Oh my God, I'm still processing, so I can't really say anything about it that would make any sense. You would just need to like look at my face and watch my facial expressions and then look into my glowing blue eyes. But it was so wonderful, and I feel like I am still gathering information. It's made me feel really light since I did it, and I'm getting so many opportunities, creative, personal, what have you. Like things are just flying to me, and it's because I've cleared out a layer of bullshit for sure, and now I have space to let things in, which is also what I talk about in this episode a little bit. Anyway, okay, the other big thing to share is I didn't edit this episode, and it's intentional. It was an intentional non-edit. I just sort of touched on this when I talked about my self-tape and prepping before, like doing more beforehand, front loading rather than afterwards. And I mean, that also applies to life, right? Going into really any experience with life, even if it's just socializing, getting your energy right. And then you go in and you have much more aligned experiences rather than being chaotic and all over the place and going into social situations and being like, why did I say that? Why did I talk to that person? Why did I respond that way? Why did I do that? Oh my God. And then you have anxiety and fear and embarrassment and shame and all this backtracking and trying to edit yourself. I was going to say dude, I don't know who the dude is, but if you show up to anything with more alignment, then you get to do way less on the back end. And I am also giving myself that gift. I spent more time preparing for this episode, and I did have to do a little bit of research because it is about TBM, to be magnetic, and you'll hear I reference the website and the app. And so I had to actually go in and look at the language and how things are structured to try and make sense of it to other people and myself sometimes, as I'm just learning. But I had to articulate in a way that I hope makes sense. And I decided I'm not going to edit this because this is also like an area of growth for me, which is, again, like the whole podcast too, allowing it to be imperfect and letting it be and not kind of like micromanaging things, because I have gotten to a little bit of a place where I'm controlling it too much, and then I am not getting resentful of it, but I'm feeling a little avoidant in certain ways because I'm not making it fun for me, right? If I have to go in and then spend 5 hours editing, who wants to do that? That's not fun. So there are things where I'll like, okay, think of this, this long pause, just cut that pause. It was something like that. I think when I started out, I didn't have my mic completely hooked up, or there was some tech issue. And so the actual start was delayed. And so I just, kind of cut the nonsense out, but I didn't edit it. And I think it's going to be fine. I don't think the world's going to end. So anyway, enjoy this episode. I hope that this gives you a clear idea of what TBM is, and I hope you love it. And then do yourself a favor and go and sign up for a membership. Join the club. If you see a cat tail swaying, it's my emotional support cat. Hello, I love you. She just went to swat me. She's here, does not want to be looked at or touched, so we're going to respect that. But you did make the camera, so how nice. Okay, I just took a swig of lemon ginger kombucha, which was a really bad idea because there's a burn in my throat right before I record. Kind of the worst thing you could do. But here we go. So TBM. I'm so excited to finally be sharing about this. TBM. What is it? What does it stand for? Where can you find it? Why do I love it? So TBM stands for To Be Magnetic. And To Be Magnetic is a program that was created by Lacey Phillips, and it is a 3-phase journey back to alignment. This is the description listed on their website, which I think is a more accurate depiction than just calling it a manifestation program, but only because a lot of people think of manifestation as, a bunch of dreams they have about money, dream partner, dream home, dream career, and you do the affirmations and the visualizations and the vision boards. Whereas this is about regulating, is my mic on? Okay. Regulating your nervous system, discovering your blocks, and finding your authenticity so that you can co-create the life you want with the universe. So essentially, you're like getting down to the layers beneath, and then you're figuring out from there what you truly want and also like who you truly are. So it teaches you how to become the version of who you know you are and who you know you're meant to be. Okay, so that's a little bit of an overview. Let's go through the process of it. So the TB magnetic framework believes that you need to have a few elements at play in order for your manifestations to come into fruition, to come into this physical universe that we're living in. And that consists of undoing blocks, finding expanders, and then taking aligned action. And I'm going to go through each one of these in depth. So instead, I have said so many, many times, instead of jumping right into reading the affirmations and making the vision boards, you're instead getting to, like I said, the root of your issues and what's been holding you back from not having the thing you want, right? Like, why don't you have it already? The thing holding you back is what they call a block. And a block could be a million different things. It's individual, and it also probably is going to change as you get deeper into the work and as you manifest different things into your life. Maybe you discover you have a block regarding being seen. Maybe you have a block regarding letting love in, right? And so you've suffered in your romantic relationships because deep down there's a piece of you that doesn't feel like it's safe to let someone in. And so you're focusing on finding someone to go out, the dating apps and meeting with coaches and going on whatever. I'm basically just giving examples of like going on lots of dates when that might bring the same thing again and again and again, meaning you go on, you sign up for a bunch of dating apps, you go on 30 different dates, and it feels like it's all the same person, or you feel like you're running into the same issues again and again. It's not really about trying harder and doing more. It's about getting into what's blocking you underneath from not finding your partner. I hope that makes sense. I have no idea what I just said. The second part is about finding expanders. So expanders are examples of people who embody the things that you're looking for because it shows your brain that what you want is possible. It gives your brain evidence that the thing that you want exists, and you're able to see someone else do it too. There can be all different types of expanders, right? There could be expanders in your inner circle amongst your friends. It could be someone who's, a degree of separation. It could be someone on social media. I feel like social media is so great for that. If you don't have it in your inner circle, you get to see that it's the thing that exists out there. There can be fragmented expanders, which would be someone who has a portion or an aspect of what you want, but not the entire thing. So I came up with an example that I wrote down of just kind of walking you through this process that I think will make it helpful to understand and visualize. Visualize. So I'm going to use finding your dream home for this. Say you're manifesting your dream home, and that dream home has 4 bedrooms, an acre of land. It's within view of the mountains. You want an in-ground pool and a detached garage. This is not my dream home, by the way. It sounds very nice, but it's not mine. A fragmented expander could be someone who has manifested a really nice home, but maybe it's not their dream home. Maybe it's pretty close. So you find someone who is a homeowner. They really like their home. They got it under market. The buying process was seamless, and it fit a lot of things they want. That could be an expander for you. But because they also didn't find their complete dream list, they're not a full expander. So hopefully that makes sense. There's a little more nuance in there, but I wanted to just give an example. They essentially embody aspects of what you want, but not the full picture, right? Like me as an actress, I could find someone who has a career that mimics aspects of what I want, but maybe it's not fully what I'm looking for. And I can go, okay, that's a fragmented expander. They're booking more work than me, or they've been on this show, which I think would be really cool to be on, but they're missing all of these other elements that I really want in my career. So they're not like a full expander for me. So then the third piece of it is taking aligned action. So, you're not sitting around thinking about all the things you want. You're taking action and moving forward and toward what you're manifesting, which I think is where a lot of people in the self-development world kind of get stuck. And I remember hearing this a while ago and being super confused by it. Like I couldn't imagine just sitting around meditating all the time. But that can become like a safe zone for people, this world that they're creating, they feel much more comfortable or happy in. So, sitting around manifesting, but not taking the action, you're missing a piece, right? Especially when you're conscious that there are things that you could be doing, but you're not doing it. And you're like, I'm just gonna write affirmations instead. There's more that goes into this at a little discovery you have to do to make sure the aligned action you're taking is actually aligned and not just like random action. Okay, these are the three aspects that need to be present with you as you're going through the TBM program. They have you start with their signature workshop, which is called How to Manifest, and it's a very deep dive into how the entire program operates. I went through it twice, and now I feel like I have a very clear understanding of how it operates. Explaining it is another story, obviously, but you can come back to it repeatedly. And the workshops are basically like, it's a collection of videos, audios, some journaling. Maybe you want to take some notes. There might be something called a DI, which is their like signature. It's kind of like a meditation hypnosis. It stands for deep imagining. And so maybe you'll do one of those a day. Maybe the next day you're just going to take some notes and listen to an audio. Maybe the next day you're going to do some like more in-depth journaling. And what's really nice is there's an app so you can come back to it again and again. After that, you're welcome to start with any workshop that calls to you. I think they suggest you start with, unblocked inner child or shadow, but there are so many to choose from. And they also create challenges once or twice a year, I think, and you can go along and do the challenge with the full community, and there are live calls too, which is really nice. So why do I love TBM so much? Because if you know me in real life, I have talked about TBM many, many, many times, and I share it with anyone who I think gives me an inkling that they might be interested in the work, because I've done so many different things and I have never felt like anything encompasses all of the tools you need like TBM does. What I love so much about it really is the framework. I think that it takes manifesting away from something like magical and woo-woo and difficult to grasp, and it gives you very actionable, easy to understand steps. And like I said, they have an app which is very convenient and organized. You can come back to it repeatedly whenever you want. It's also very affordable. And unlike a lot of other programs where you do it once and yes, you can come back to the replays or the updates whenever you want, when you do TBM, you actually have to sign up for a year-long membership because they know that it takes time to create lasting change. And you have all of these tools to return to as you go deeper or you get, activated or triggered by life. It's great to do a workshop or a retreat and feel good and you have that surge of energy, but then you're going back to your daily life with the people who piss you the fuck off and the things you don't like and the things you want to change and anxieties, et cetera, et cetera. This program gives you the tools to go through all of that. And it's not just this like rush of dopamine and you're in the jungle doing this amazing retreat. And obviously this is what I want to do. I want to go to the jungle and do a retreat, but it's much more than that. It's something you can refer back to day to day. I really like that it is affordable too, not just because it doesn't cost a lot of money, but I love the idea that it makes it accessible for people. It's not this like hard to obtain, massive amount of money you're throwing down. Obviously, the starting point for doing this is that you somewhat believe in it or you believe it will help you. But other than that, I think it works for literally anybody. They essentially have you just strip down the layers of bullshit that we have that are not ours. The shit we got from family, from our society, culture, religion, past lives, if you believe in that. And you get down to who you are at your core. And from there, you get to build the life you actually want. How many times have you thought you really wanted something and then you realized it came from a misguided place? Society's expectations of what you should do, the influence of your parents, cultural pressures, what other people are thinking of you, keeping up with the Joneses, all of that nonsense. TBM helps you get underneath that. And from that place is where you start to manifest. If you want more information about this as well, I'm going to link the website in the show notes and also the link to their podcast, which is called The Expanded Podcast. It is so wonderful. I actually listened to it for years and years before I became a member. They have another thing that's great on their website. I think everyone can access this. I don't think you have to be a member. Maybe so if you go on and you can't find it, that would be why you need to sign up for a membership. But they have hundreds of testimonials on their website, which I find to be just so helpful and really cool. It's organized by topic. So you can go in and say you're trying to manifest love. You can go in and read all about people who have manifested love into their lives. And there's a bunch of questions that they have to answer. So you get like a really nice understanding. Maybe they'll say, I wanted to, I had left a long-term relationship and I wanted to manifest my dream partner. And I dated for several months and I worked with a matchmaker and I felt really lost. And then I came to the work and I got really clear on what I wanted. And these are all the workshops I did. And then, 9 months later, I met this person and now we're engaged. Like there's tons of stories like that. And it is so cool. It's very cool to read them, explain, these are all the workshops I did. These are the steps I took. And this is how it worked for me. There are also there's meetups that are called the magnetic meetups. So you can either create one like me in your town or city, or you can join a local one if it's already established. And like I said, you join the membership for 1 year, which I think honestly is the reason that kept me from doing it, because part of me felt like, a year is so long and I'm impatient. Patience is something that I'm learning in this lifetime, but I'm impatient and I want things now and I don't have time. So that's kind of how I felt. Like I'm not signing up for this for a year. So that's clearly something I have been addressing in the work. So yeah, I think it was like the length of the program. And then it also felt like too simplistic almost. Like how can there be a framework for how we basically do life? But now I feel like it is so smart that they have you sign up for a year membership, because I've said this a couple times already, but they really want you to understand how it operates and how to integrate this into your life. And that can take longer than a month or two. Maybe you get a couple of concepts really fast. I have definitely felt that. But in terms of like really changing your whole life and how you exist can take a little bit longer. You have to develop an understanding and, get comfortable with the language and the structure, and then actually do the work and implement it. You learn how to be different, how to operate as a different human being. And that typically doesn't happen in one day. The exception might be ayahuasca. But then still, I've needed a lot of support and time to integrate since then. And I did ayahuasca. I can't really count on the fly, but I did it last summer and I'm still integrating, and there are still new things that are popping up for me. And if I didn't have support, I think I would be a little lost on how to process some things. So yeah, it takes time to become a new human. Well, yeah, if it's not clear, I'm obviously a huge fan of this program, the language, the way it's structured, just all of it works really well for my brain. So I joined in late October, like the second part of the month, and I've felt a lot of shifts in my energy, in the way I'm handling things and the way I'm showing up and the clarity I have in my life. And that honestly came pretty quickly. That didn't mean it eliminated all of my problems right away, but I think it's given me a lot of clarity on what I want from my life and a lot of clarity on the things that are blocking me and what my habits and my patterns are. I also am going to put a link in my show notes that'll give you a discount code to sign up. They do them throughout the year occasionally too. They'll give discounts. So if you find one of those, then you should hop on it. But if not, you can use the code that I have. There's an option if you want to pay monthly or you want to sign up for the year up front. But like I said, it is a year membership. You can also do a lifetime membership, which honestly, I should just do that. All right. The real reason that I had initially wanted to do this podcast, besides how much I love TBM, is because I went through a pretty rough period in the fall. So I was on a high post ayahuasca, just loving life, dancing around, like literally and spiritually, I suppose. And then it kind of felt like it all came crashing down. Nothing bad happened. It was more energetically and emotionally, like everything felt really heavy and really weird. And it was confusing because at the same time I was booking a ton of acting work. I was really busy. I was forming community. I was meeting new people. I was having new experiences. I was really stretching myself creatively. I was feeling much more established here and like it was home. I was showing up in my life differently, creating new boundaries. There are some friendships that weren't working. I was gravitating towards new types of people. And that felt disorienting, like all of it together. But I also knew, okay, I'm moving in the right path. Like this is right. And then I hit what felt like a low. But again, there was so much good happening at the same time. So I started doing some digging and I uncovered all of these phases within TBM, which I think they call them manifestation phases, which is really just manifestation is like, co-creation with the universe, bringing the thing you want into fruition into this universe. You've probably heard of being in a rut and a rock bottom before, but do you know what a magic dark is? What a fun phrase. This might be new. This was definitely new to me. I think it's actually something that many of us have experienced, but we don't know, unless we have the tools, we don't know how to move through it. And it can feel like a dark space, like just dark, no magic, a magic-free dark space. So I'll also share what I think I was going through at this time, maybe still a little bit. And I find these phases to be so helpful because I'm definitely someone who has victimized myself in the past. Like, why is this happening to me? Why is this so hard? What have I done wrong? What am I doing wrong? And now I feel like I have a clear framework and idea, and I'm able to identify what I'm going through. So as I mentioned, TBM has all of this like very specific language to it. I probably already used some like funky phrases, but there's a phrase they refer to, like I said, as the magic dark, the dark before the dawn, the quieter in between phase after you've done some of the inner work, you've started to pass tests, which is, saying no to things, putting up the boundaries. And this is when things can start to seem quiet. And the big manifestation, the big shift has yet to arrive. In the meantime, the universe might be taking everything that is out of alignment from your life. And you're continuing to pass the test and move through the hardship. You're taking aligned action. There's a lot happening at once, which is the magic part, but the dark is the big thing you want has yet to arrive. It's a phase in which we're saying no to the things we've been saying yes to for a long time. And I think dating is going to be a good example for this. I gave you the house example, so we'll move on to dating. So it's like you're saying no to your old standards and way of being, and you're creating new standards. And in that period, waiting period, it's the period of creating new standards and new structures, there might be some quiet. What's happening here is our systems, your subconscious, and the circumstances in your life is I'm using my hands a lot like I'm a sorcerer. I don't know why. But it's like your system is clearing, it's recalibrating, and it's testing whether you're staying aligned with the version of you who can receive the desired thing. And when I say testing, this is going to be another, ADHD conversation, but I do have a little structure of bullet points I want to hit. The testing piece is not like, like you're being tested in like a mean way. It's more of the universe going, okay, so you said you didn't want to date people like this. Got it. But what about this person? And it's going to present you with an option and you can go, whoa, 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 whoa. That is what I said no to. You have free will. Are you going to say no to it, or have things been quiet for a long time and you're getting a little scared and you're saying, oh no, I'm falling into lack. This is so scary. What if there's nobody else? I'm going to say yes to this. That's what I mean by tests. Like you're going to pass them or you're not. And as you pass tests, you're moving through this phase. And so during this period, it's very common that, like I just said, fear, scarcity, and loss are going to start to come up, right? You'll lose things in your life. You'll say, I can't do relationships like this. And then maybe the person you went on a couple of dates with doesn't call you again and just changes their mind, decides they're not interested, and you're hurt about that. But really, they were kind of your old patterning and your old conditioning, your old type. And so that's actually a really good thing. And then maybe you're getting afraid because you're not being asked out again and you're getting scared and you're not seeing any options out there. That's when you commit, you trust, you ride the wave. You're in this magic dark period. You're still taking action. You're taking care of yourself. Maybe you're looking at the apps a little bit still, right? You're not becoming like a hermit recluse and like hiding yourself away. Need water. But you are not obsessing about it. Dating, I feel like, is a really good example for this. Like I said, people, the same type is reaching out to you. Maybe they're interested, they're your old type, and you're like, you know what? I'm not going to entertain this. I know this is going to end up. I believe there's something greater on the other side. It's tough though, hard decisions. In the moment, it can feel really hard when you're like, if I say no to these guys or like women like this, is there anybody else? And the thing is, there is, right? There might be like your next door neighbor could be dating like the most incredible person, but it's that they have a different standard. So the people that are coming into their sphere are operating at a whole different level, and you just gotta wait. You just gotta wait. So like I said, during that period, maybe you're not getting many dates. Things seem quiet. Maybe you feel like nobody likes me at all. You have anxiety and fear come up. It's just facing your loneliness, being okay with it being this way for a little while. Maybe you start to really observe the ways you avoid your feelings. I'm obviously speaking from past experiences, but yeah, dating can be a great way of avoiding problems, right? It's an excellent distraction. So the energy is shifting while you're continuing to say no and to get clear about what you want and take aligned action. Things keep shifting and you just got to keep trusting the process. So then how do you know if you're in a magic dark and not like a rut? So TBM says there's like a few things to differentiate between a magic dark, a rock bottom, and a rut. The first is that you've been consistent with your practices, right? So whatever that looks like for you, you're consistently following through. You're also passing tests, like the obvious one I just gave of dating someone and or saying no to people that are your similar patterns. And the third is that momentum is still building. So maybe you're not getting the dates, but you're still feeling driven and focused. You're focused on the manifestation, even though it's not quite here yet. It means it's really close. Maybe you even feel a little stuck. You might hit fear or some old patterns. You might be tempted to give up. Like, when is this coming? And that silence is often a great sign that you're in a magic dark. I just wanted to explain this and share what it is because I was just thinking about this phase I was in the fall, and I wasn't quite in just a magic dark, and I will kind of get to that, but it made me look back on my life and see how many times I was in a magic dark and I didn't have the tools or the understanding to realize that. I just thought things weren't happening for me. I wanted this thing. It's been a few weeks. Now I'm losing my job, or I'm losing the relationship, or the apartment's not working out, or I have to move. Like all these bad things are happening. And I would just think at the time, I'm doing something wrong. And now I look back and I realize, oh, this was happening for me. Those things were clearing out because they weren't going to suit what I wanted and the version of who I needed to be in order to get that thing. So I look back and I'm like, no, I was probably so close so many times. I can see this pattern in my life over and over and over again. It would feel overwhelming and lonely and scary. And I would throw in the towel. I would give up. I wouldn't stay committed. I would just go back to doing what I knew. I didn't trust. I didn't know. Okay, let's move on. Another phase is a rut, which we've all heard of before, and we've used that term. We've probably been in one. If I'm being completely honest, I would say that I was in a mix of an up level, but leaning into a rut. A rut is not necessarily something everyone experiences, but it's common and comes when we're settling in areas of our lives, and we're now aware of that. It's when you're off the path, meaning you're on a path, but it's not your soul's path. It's different, your ego's path. And the way you show up in friendships, relationships, the job you're in, it could be, months at a time. You might not feel any momentum. And as the phrase goes, action is the antidote to despair. The rut can last for several months. Taking aligned action is a really good way to get out of it. It doesn't mean that your manifestation is typically close when you're in a rut, but you can obviously turn that around. It's essentially like you've fallen off the path and lost some direction and drive, and you're going through the motions, but you can get back on. So the third one is a rock bottom. You've been calling in something big. It wants to come in, but it can't because you're not ready. And something that many people can relate to is being in a relationship that is misaligned and wanting to have their dream partner, yet your dream partner's not going to come in when you're in I know there's always crazy exceptions to the rule, but I don't know how messy you want your life to be. But if you're in a relationship, you're married, you're living with someone, your life is enmeshed, and you want this dream partner, dream relationship that doesn't look anything like your partner, they can't come in. You're fucking married. You have to clear shit out before you can let that in, right? You're looking for your dream job that's going to require, another common one I think that happens with women is they're looking for their dream partner, but no aspect of their life would really allow that partner to come in. They're I don't know. I don't know. They're, constantly traveling and they work 75 hours a week and they're never home and they're not able to even see their friends once a week. Dude, how are you going to date somebody? You have no time for literally anybody in your life, right? It's you create the space to allow the thing to come in. Does that make sense? I can't get immediate feedback, so I really hope so. This would be you are not the person, essentially you are not the person you need to be in order to receive what you're calling in. So the universe will send you a lot of lessons in order to get you to move through them and be ready to receive what you want. And like I said, that could be losing a job, a relationship ending, a divorce, having an apartment fall through. It can often be dramatic, but it also speeds up whatever manifestation is coming through, though obviously not by choice, but that's fine. You're going to get the thing. You're up leveling very quickly and you have to do some energetic shifts in order to be ready for it. It can feel aggressive, like a push, like something being yanked from you and really scary and make you think that you're wrong, but it's for your own good. It's only very recently, within the last 6 months, I'm talking so fast, there's literally no way you could listen to this on 2 times speed. Maybe you could. It's only very recently, though, within the last 6 months of my life when things started to not work out and fall out of my life. And I'll go, okay, here we go, baby. This is good. It means these things have to go because they cannot come with me to my next level. And I have not done that before. So it's really nice to have that trust. The bigger the crash, I love this. I saw this on Instagram a while ago. It was something about the bigger the crash out, or the lower the rock bottom or whatever it is, the more magic is coming in. And that feels so true. It's they kind of mirror each other. If you're really crashing out and everything's getting taken from you, you have got an up level coming for sure. So I'm anticipating being extremely successful and wealthy because Good Lord. The crash outs I've had in the last 2 years. Good fucking God. But yeah, the more trust you have in the universe and yourself, the easier it gets to move through all of these phases when they come up. You can literally identify them and you know what to do. You have the tools, and it is scary, but it's not as scary, I promise. Okay, so what do you do when you're in these phases? The main suggestion, at least from TBM, and I would say just the universal feedback, right, is to be gentle with yourself, to feel your feelings. So while you're clearing out any misalignment and you're saying no to things, you're going to have fear or anxiety or grief come up. I've experienced a lot of grief with saying no to things. I've had to make hard decisions and say no, and even if the discomfort is temporary, it can bring up a lot of sadness. It's testing like your comfort levels and hitting an inner wound of like, will I ever get this thing? Will I ever be happy? Whatever the questions are coming up for you. And endings can just be sad, even if the thing is not aligned, even if you don't want it anymore. I mean, have you ever broken up with somebody and, they were a good person and it was hard, but you knew they weren't the one for you? It doesn't necessarily make it easier. Another suggestion is to keep expanding yourself. So feeling into like the best version of you and unblocking. So you go through the program, you figure out what your blocks are, you find other people to connect with that expand you, the expanders, and show you the ways that you actually are changing. You continue to take aligned action, right? You lean on your community. It's not the time to sit on your ass and not doing anything and cry. Well, I mean, you should definitely cry. There's always time for a cry, but then you take action while you're crying, which is a lot of my life looks like. I'm a very sensitive person. I'm an actress and a performer. Okay, there's a lot of crying going on. And then really the biggest thing is to just not settle. The way you make it out of, I mean, all of these things, but definitely the magic dark when you're really fucking close, is that you refuse to settle. And and you trust that this time period is not forever. And you are not going to go back to your shitty ex or the bad dating patterns or the crappy job. You are not going to do things out of loneliness and desperation. You are going to stay true to yourself, stay on the path, and trust that the thing you want is coming. Because the loneliness and the sadness, those are feelings, and they are temporary. Feeling sad, feeling lonely, those are feelings. They will end, but you gotta get through them. And I am saying this as someone who has been there many times. Like, will I ever not feel lonely? Will I ever not feel sad? And now that I've gone through this, I have the tools, I have the words, I can say, oh yeah, these things don't last forever. Because when you're in it, it can feel really fucking hard. Like it's never going to end. It can feel like it's all encompassing. This is all very simple. It's very simple, but that doesn't make it easy. It's hard too, in theory, definitely, when you're creating a pattern. Very easy to fall back into what we know, which is really just what we're comfortable with. The thing you are comfortable with is just the thing you know and are familiar with. That's why things might be familiar, but really unhealthy. And if we haven't dug deep, did I say dung or Doug? Oh, I guess Doug is the word, but I saw the man's name Doug in my head when I said that, but I was right. If we haven't dug deep or done much work on ourselves, the thing that is comfortable for you is probably very much the thing that is not good for you, right? It's just familiar, but probably not good for you. I have my own interesting relationship with the idea of getting too comfortable. I don't think it's what our souls want. Our souls don't want comfort. And when I start to feel that, like, oh, I'm really comfortable, I get a little antsy. And I think it's partly why I've made so many massive changes in my life, like moves and changing jobs and going back to school and living abroad, etc., moving so many times, it's because there's a part of me that has learned to feel comfortable by being uncomfortable. And we could analyze that another way, but we're not going to. This is not a therapy session for me. But I am also very grateful that I have that, and that I do have this like desire, this impulse to continually push myself. Anyway, the big question we come back to is, are you truly not going to settle? Do you 100% trust? And are you not going to go backwards to where you used to be? We have free will. We have the power to choose. And saying no can be really hard, but there is a massive amount of power in that word, whether it's to someone else or just to ourselves. Saying no and trusting that the thing you want, the thing that is better, is out there and is coming is so fucking powerful. We are co-creating our lives. So, you've gotten a little background of TBM, magic, dark, ruts, rock bottoms. Let's talk about me now, because this is my podcast. No, but let's talk about what I've been going through, because I said I would share, and I just think giving personal examples, at least like how I process information, I always want examples of things. So the magic dark. Okay, no. Let me go back. I think I've gone through pretty much all of these phases over the last couple of years: rock bottom, rut, magic dark, next level, for sure. And I have felt elements of a couple of them at once too, which, yikes. The magic dark can feel like it's not the greatest place to be in, but there is, like all of these, there's an end in sight. And there's also like things are happening at the same time. So anyway, I realized that I think I was going through a magic dark in the late fall. I think I went through all of them actually in the fall. It was a lot. The leaves were falling, and shit was falling from my life. But it was challenging because, like I said, I was taking a lot of aligned action. I was having all these fun things come to me. I had an incredible amount of creative and artistic opportunities. I felt artistically aligned. I was raising my standards for a lot of aspects of my life. I addressed relationships that didn't feel in alignment. And I also had other areas of my life that felt really sticky, and like I was repeating patterns. Like I felt like, I can't get out of them. It was like, I felt like in some areas of my life, I was in this like rut, almost kind of like this rock bottom. Like, okay, things are not going to come through if I don't like really, really shift and make some different decisions. So some things felt off, but I was also presented with a lot of opportunities to show up differently. And although I did not do it perfectly, by and large, I started to show up differently and make new choices. Overall, I would say. It felt like the in-between of things. Like I was in between like worlds. And I feel like I've been wearing, it's hard to describe, but I feel like I've been wearing a lot of layers and jackets and coats and like a parka and hats and all the shit. So I don't want to wear. I'm a summer baby. I'm a tank top kind of girl. And I feel like I've been taking off the layers piece by piece, which created an awkward phase for me because a lot of things were not fitting. It was like I had all these jackets on, but it was warm, and then I'm taking them off and I'm cold. Like things just like weren't really meshing. And I don't know what I wanted it to look like. I just know that things didn't feel quite right. For the first time, I have these tools, and I was developing these tools as I was going through this, which was allowing me to kind of like ride the waves instead of trying to control what's outside of me. I was just getting deeper within myself, which can also be kind of a scary place to go, right? When you go to like the deepest layers that you've been in yourself and you're like, oh, fuck, haven't met this version of me. Hello. So I was saying no to, let's see, I said I was going to be more specific, but then I'm always like, I don't want to be specific. I don't know how much I want to share, but I'll share a little bit. I was starting to say no to old dating patterns and some other habits, more of like day to day. Like day to day would be like how I wake up, what my routine looks like, things like that, like really like, habits and tasks. So in real time, I got to see myself respond differently and then immediately notice like, oh, I just handled that differently than I would have in the past. That's cool, but also really weird. Like, Was that authentic? I mean, I like the way I responded, but I haven't done that before. So that's what I mean about it being kind of weird and feeling like an in-between. I overall feel like I've been in a phase of next level for quite a bit. But during that time, I had the magic dark come up, the rut, and pieces of the rock bottom. But now like I said, I can say it's all, happening for me. I'm kind of all over the place. So just like stay with me here. If you feel like you have, big goals or dreams and they're not reflected in your life, then something's gotta give. Something's gotta give. And there will be things that you have to let go of in order to get there. And I have said this like a million times at this point, but it is scary. Just because you can, follow a workshop and identify what's going on, it doesn't make it not scary. You could get a health diagnosis and medication prescribed and a treatment plan. That doesn't inherently take away from the anxiety or the fear that you're experiencing. Having a support system or a community and being able to talk about it, having really solid tools to navigate and regulate yourself helps immensely. That also builds trust that you'll get through the blocks and get closer to wherever you're trying to go. I've also been doing some shadow work recently, which is, oh dear God, it is not for the faint of heart. But let me just stop there for a second in case you're unsure of what shadow work is before I move on. Okay, so shadow work is, I'm going to give you a definition of what's similar to the TBM definition because it's very good. Your shadow consists of characteristics that we believe are unlovable, and they can bring up very intense levels of shame, sadness, anger, just pain overall. And they are aspects that we reject about ourselves because we had to in order to survive. Not necessarily survive like life and death, but survive as in receive love from our parents, be accepted by our peers, be validated by our teachers or society. They're all different ways that you can spot shadow aspects of yourself, but I think some of the best ones are seeing the times that you get triggered by people or situations, or observing the times where you experience jealousy or envy. An example of this could be like you're told that you're too loud and talkative. This is not me. No, it kind of is. You were told that you were too loud and talkative when you were younger. Maybe it irritated your parents or it frustrated your teacher or whatever. So in order to be accepted and loved, you push down that part of you that's really loud or has a lot to say. And as time goes on, if you're not dealing with that, meaning you're not able to see it from another perspective, it's very likely that you'll carry some shame about these parts of you and you'll bury them or reject them, and then also maybe feel really triggered or annoyed by someone else who's like that because you, on a very deep subconscious level, believe that those qualities are bad. We took a detour. Back to my story. So I told shadow work. I told someone I'm working with on like an emotional, spiritual level as someone that I've done. His name is Vidu. I've done shadow work with him since my ayahuasca retreat. I told him how I, at some point in the fall, just felt so sick of myself and like my daily habits. And that was kind of what I explained of like, just feeling like I'm in between and like I'm doing these things, but like, why am I doing them? And like, they don't feel right. It was really simple shit, right? Like, why do I have my clothes in my drawer this way? Why did I fold my socks this way? Why do I even wear these socks? Why are my clothes hung up in my closet this way? We're talking really, really basic. And his feedback was not at all what I thought. I thought he was going to tell me to chill out a little bit and take my hand off the lever and give myself some breathing room, but he didn't. He said, this is not verbatim, but he said, if you want change and you want to be so sick of yourself that you do things differently, then we need to make you really, really, really sick of yourself. So if you are looking at yourself with 100 times magnifying glass, we need to turn the dial up to 400. And you need to take a really good hard look at yourself to the point where you can't stand it anymore, and that catapults you into change. I understand that might seem extreme for some people, but if you are used to living in your comfort zone, then that makes sense that that would be extreme. However, if you're someone who's interested in creating new patterns and living a different life than the one you've been leading, then yeah, you do have to take a very good, hard look at yourself, and that is not a comfortable place to be in. So shadow work and TBM have been extremely helpful for me in this area, and I can also very much I have a lot of empathy and I have a lot of understanding of how overwhelming it can be, which I feel sometimes too, especially if you don't have the support and the tools. Diving deep into your psyche could feel insurmountable, just not possible. But also, it's not necessarily a place I want to live in for so long or all the time or for a lot of time. I want to be living my life as well and not and enjoying it. That's not to say I'm not enjoying my life at this time. I very much am. But I think I'm still figuring out, and this is what I learned from my ayahuasca retreat, which is how to bring some light into the darkness. And I experienced that when I was, kind of going through a magic dark of like, oh, I can still have a grand old time just because I'm experiencing this up level phase and I'm very deep into it. I can still invite some light in and find the joy and the gratitude and the appreciation. I can allow myself to be living my life and not just observing in this hyper analysis mode. So TBM overall is just a really good framework for life. And another reason I love it is because it has helped me to just understand the phases of life. Instead of feeling like, oh, I'm going through a hard time, I can put a name and a description to what I'm going through, and then I can look at a framework for how to navigate it. TBM is really, it's just a guide for life, I think. And with all of the woo-woo, it's going to be a wild statement, but with all of the woo-woo things I do, in all honesty, it feels like the least woo-woo thing I do. There's just so much structure to it. It feels like science. So I'm about 5.5-ish months in, and I'm already at the point where I can fully acknowledge that, okay, sometimes life is hard and uncomfortable, but it doesn't mean we have to suffer. And that might be really basic, but yeah, we all have different lessons to learn. That's been mine. Like, things can be hard and uncomfortable, but they can be fun too. I also am someone who does not believe in the whole toxic positivity bullshit, as that phrase is so lovingly referred to. Ignore the hard shit and just carry on. No. A lot of the times we contribute to the sadness or anger with an added layer of judgment or pressure. And I think that's where the suffering comes from. So we can acknowledge that things are hard, but we don't have to create massive amounts of more pain and fully live in that. I don't like to say that everything happens for a reason because I don't think it's helpful. And there are billions of people who have had life experiences that I have not had and cannot relate to. So I will just say, for me in my own life, the hardships that I have been through have been for my own good. For me to learn lessons, to become more resilient, to dig deeper, to find compassion for myself, which has made me more compassionate for other people, which has taught me to learn patience, still learning, or grace, or whatever it is. But overall, I believe that TBM has given me a massive advantage to moving through difficulty. There's a deeper level overall, I'm kind of repeating myself, but of accepting those phases and allowing myself to be in them without having so much anxiety or worrying come up that I'm going to be in this forever. Everything really is temporary. That's the one constant thing we can rely on in life, that nothing is forever. And that can be a relief, and there can also be some sadness to that. And that's life, the duality. This is the first time in my life where I have been in a little bit more of a challenging period with heightened awareness and still felt very committed to my vision. I haven't wavered from what I want. Maybe the way I'm doing it has, I've maybe been inconsistent with that, but I haven't wavered from what I want and where I want to be. And the faith and the hope still lives there. Even if there are moments where it can feel, there can be moments where it feels far away, but it hasn't left me. Okay. So hopefully this helps you to understand a little bit more about TBM and what you might be going through, and the power and confidence and self-trust that comes from sticking to your boundaries and saying fuck no to things. Way too often we say yes to things from a place of lack or fear, and then we're attached. My God, how many relationships are people in because they were afraid of being alone and they said yes, and then they got attached really quickly and they're just riding the wave and they're years in, like, what am I doing? Or a job or what have you. If you can stick out that temporary phase, maybe we can't see how good it can get right now, but we can envision it and trust it. Maybe we are afraid to be alone or afraid of the in-between. That's okay. It's not always comfortable, but trusting that place, knowing it's temporary and that you can navigate it, sets you up for so much goodness. All right. Thank you for listening. See you soon. Thanks for listening to Caught Off Guard. If you connected with this episode, or even if you didn't, please subscribe and leave a review, but only a nice one. It'll really help more people find the show. You can find us on Instagram at Caught Off Guard Pod. See you next time.